Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hashtag Burning Questions. Hi Sholin, hi Diego, hi Alex.
Hey, Mbali,
I'm Bali.
How are you guys doing?
we're doing good.
Good,
Good,
good.
good.
Things are on.
Tough times last, but you know what? We're here and we move. So, guys,
Wow.
today we are looking at a code card from Mr. Oliver Tambo. And it reads: We seek to create a united, democratic, and non racial society. Straight to the point, and you know what? There's no added extras, none of those things. Sholan, your thoughts on this code card?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Oliver Tambo. I mean, the ideal is important, and that's something all of us here at Fans strive to. We seek to create a democratic country that's non-racial, and chooses people based on merit,
Hmm.
and not on skin color. I mean, I cannot agree with him. The ideal, I definitely stand with. Yeah.
Definitely. Diego?
Well, for me, perhaps Oliver Tambo and his cohorts in the in the African National
Mhm.
Congress at the time that he said this
Mm.
stood for non-racialism and democracy. But the ANC of today certainly does not stand for these things. And more, the more I think about this, I'm very convinced that even then, he probably wasn't speaking for everyone. He was
Mm.
probably speaking for a few people within the organization. I think many of the people within his organization certainly don't stand for freedom, certainly don't
Yeah.
stand for non-racialism. The organization itself, I mean, the quality of people it aligned with, post-apartheid, your COSATUs, your NIHAUs, organizations that really want to push for socialism and really
Yeah, the
push
Communist
for,
Party as well, Diego.
Mm.
yeah, they push for race-based
Mhm.
policies such as BE and stuff.
Yeah.
Such an organization certainly does not stand for these things. Perhaps Mr. Oliver Tambo and few of his cohorts, perhaps your Nelson Mandelas and few others, really stood for these values, but certainly not the ANC of today.
That is very, very accurate. Let's go to the first comment on this code card. So it's labeled number 2, but then you know what? Don't worry about it. So this comment comes from Chris, and it says, "So Ollie, how's that panning out?" Alex, do you mind answering on behalf of Uncle Ollie? How is that panning out?
Yeah, I guess. Well, I think United, if we can pick it apart, I think the
Hmm.
democratic part is still kind of tangible. We are
Hmm.
no Zimbabwe, we are no Venezuela. I think we are pretty good in terms of free and fair elections. Fan recently went to court to ensure
Hmm.
that a seat allocated in the municipal elections was given to the correct party. Uh, I think it was Sholin Tiako, it was
Forum,
the
Forum for Democrats,
Foreign for
FFD.
Democrats, FFD in
Oh.
Mahikeng. The EFF was allocated a seat after a calculation error,
Hmm.
and we went there and fought that on their behalf, and they were allocated the seat. So, democratically, I think things are pretty good.
Hmm.
In the non-racial sense, I think it's going great. Actually, race relations, I think, are in a very good space in South Africa. I think it's very easy to get caught in the idea that people of different races hate each other in South Africa.
Hmm.
A lot of polling shows that people generally like each other.
Yeah.
The problem, the non-racial part, I think, the non-racial threat, the threat to non-racialism, we
Hmm.
see in bad policy such as BE and affirmative action,
Yeah.
and the spillover of ideas such as cadre deployment, which I think is what Tiejo is kind of referring to when he speaks
Mm.
about how maybe someone like Oliver Tambo was kind of keen for freedom for some and not for others, kind of
Yeah.
that patronage network. So yeah, I think people mustn't be disheartened. There are threats, but
Hmm.
I think generally, in a sort of community sense, in a non-racial sense, things are looking pretty good.
You're very positive. I like that vibe, positive on a Monday.
I think
When I grow up, I want to be like you.
On
I
a
think
Tuesday.
On a
no,
Tuesday.
it's it is. I think in Bali is that there are so many stories around us that can make you think that racism
Mm.
is around every corner under
Yeah.
your pillow. You know, if your
Yeah.
bed isn't on bricks, the non-racial tokolosh is gonna, come and bite you. So I think we just need to keep perspective all the time.
Yeah.
There's things that are always going wrong. You know, we've just had KZN floods.
Bro.
You know, there are a lot of people that have passed away because of them,
Mm.
that were washed out in the floods. Houses were destroyed, properties destroyed. Those are the real problems.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we need to focus.
Definitely. That is true,
Well, I
Mr.
think
Alex.
if I
You
could
can
just
add.
jump in, me, I'm that negative one always.
I know. Like, I think we've
I think it's
established who's
true.
who here.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that even regarding the KZN crisis, part of why we have that crisis is because the government failed to listen to the advice of your civil engineers, water engineers over the years. They've advised that they should have better drainage systems in the province. They should not allow people to stay in certain areas because if such a thing as what happened would happen, we would have such a crisis, we'd be faced with such a crisis. So part of why we have issues such as what happened in the KZN is because we don't have a capable government. We don't have a government that listens to experts. And I think, yeah, it's really high time that we begin to want better stuff for ourselves as citizens of this country, that including a better government for ourselves.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, let's go to our last comment. And I think this one basically speaks to everything that you guys were saying. I don't know, maybe. This one is from Eleanor, and it reads, what ANC cadres say and what they do, there is a huge difference. Sholin, do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I specifically mentioned at the start, that the ideal that Oliver Tambo is stating is something that's definitely desirable, but what we see in reality is an unfortunate turn of events. We want a non-racial country, we want a united democratic society, but what we do see is that, policies such as BE are pushed on and forced onto us. What we do see is an extremely divisive ruling party, the ANC. And that's why it's very unfortunate that that is the case that we see. And yes, absolutely, I do have a lot of hope that, as Alex mentions, things are going to turn around for the better. That's definitely my hope. And it's unfortunate that the reality that we see is the way it is right now.
Yeah.
But I do hope that once we get the ANC removed, things will be a bit more brighter.
Definitely. So, guys, let's remove the ANC. But, Alex, if maybe I might ask, don't you think that when Oliver Tambo was saying this quote, he had the same hope that you and Sholin have? Maybe let's kind of rub off the part that you, Diego, was saying that he's probably talking to some people. What if he was actually talking for everyone and he had that hope and saying that, you know what, South Africa can do better and we will do better?
I think, pardon the pun, but I think during apartheid, things were pretty black and white. It was like, there's an obvious problem with a racialized society. You know what I mean? I think that's common sense. And I think that's why to us as classical liberals, it's generally a common sense position to hold. And I think you're right. I think he would have wanted freedom for all. And I think there would be a bit of a disappointment as how things are turned out rather. I wonder if he would be sort of disappointed at the lack of participation in formal democratic processes, because ultimately that's what the struggle heroes. That's why they are called struggle heroes. They struggled to pioneer democracy for South Africa. So, yeah, I think that the task as we always say, the task lies in getting people to use formal democratic processes.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes,
even
Roland?
sorry, Tiff, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sheldon. I'll follow. I'm
So
always
what I was
wrong.
going to say, especially
Go
what
ahead,
Alex
guys.
mentions on the struggle heroes, is that what we
Mm-hmm.
actually see is many of them tend to have foreseen the situation we might have right now, despite their hope
Mm-hmm.
and the fight for
Yeah.
freedom. They knew that would become issues along with it as well. Like I'm seeing some quotes of like Nelson Mandela, who also even like said, if the ANC ever does to you what the apartheid government did, you have to do to the ANC government what you did to the apartheid government. Chris Hani
Mm.
also made comments like, he fears that the liberators would instead be the ones driving around in
Mm.
Mercedes Benzes and so forth, and not
Yo.
really caring about the ordinary person. I mean, those are some of the things we are seeing now. Even Desmond Tutu as well.
Mm.
He was quite a critic of the ANC in
Mm.
democratic society, and despite their hopes, they were also realistic about what could go wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Diego?
Sure. Well, I think I was misunderstood, right? What I actually
Mm-hmm.
meant was that Oliver Tambo, while
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Tambo, your Nelson Mandelas and
Mm.
others
Mm-hmm.
mm,
probably did mean what Oliver Tambo say, probably did subscribe to freedom, democracy, and all of that.
Yeah.
I am sure that not everyone in his party
Mm-hmm.
subscribes to the
mm,
same
To
ideals.
the same
So he
ideas.
was
Okay.
he was speaking for himself, your Nelson Mandelas and
yes.
few others, but not the majority. I'm very
Mm.
convinced that majority of people in the ANC were not fighting. The fight against apartheid, yes, was a fight against apartheid. They knew that they wanted to collapse the apartheid system, but I'm convinced that most of them wanted to collapse apartheid just so they could move into those offices and be the ones
Mm.
who are benefiting from the positions.
Yeah.
So not everyone was fighting from the same ground, while
Yeah.
Yeah.
someone else was fighting from the ground of really wanting to see, genuinely wanting to see a freer society. Another one was looking at their pockets, and I'm convinced that we
Yeah.
have many such people in the ANC.
That is
Regarding
true.
the
Yes.
last, yeah, regarding the last quote that you put up, I think I think it depends on if you could just put it back
Yeah.
up, buddy, if it's possible. I
The
think it
last
depends.
comment, right?
The last comment, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
It's up. So what ANC cadres say, yeah, what ANC cadres says and what they
Mm-hmm.
do, huge difference. I
Yeah.
think it depends on who they are saying it to. When the
Mm.
Okay.
ANC says something to Gupta that we are going to give you a tender, they
Mm.
certainly do deliver on those tenders. The ANC
Yeah.
is betraying us as ordinary citizens of the country, but they are not betraying their mafia friends. They are delivering on
No.
those promises when they do make the promises to them. It's us
Yeah.
citizens that they really do not care about.
Yeah, that is true
Mm.
and very sad.
Mm.
True and very
Yeah.
sad. Shola and Alex, anything to add before we end the show?
I'll defer to
I
Sholin.
will give a last comment, and then we will end the show. But yeah, I absolutely think Diego was right, because you know what, during apartheid and the struggle like for freedom, we saw like this broad coalition of freedom fighters. This included
Mm.
everybody from the Institute of Race Relations to the South African Communist Party and the United Democratic Front. You saw this entire group of people trying to fight for freedom. And
Mm.
the longer we go into democracy, you actually see those who actually wanted democracy, especially in the ANC, become
Yep.
exposed. And you will see those who want democracy and those who do not. Helen Zillem, in one of her recent speeches, you absolutely loved a speech that she gave, where she actually says that South Africa is the battle for South Africa's soul is actually between people who love constitutionalism and people who
Mm-hmm.
want to degrade constitutionalism and actually just want complete power. And that's what we actually see. You
Mm.
can clearly see the battle lines are being drawn and the
Yeah.
people's statements, where that's why they say, like in the ANC, there's like this faction battle between, like, the radical economic transformation
Yeah.
folk and the new traditional type, which I'm convinced by neither. Let's get that one clear.
Okay.
But you actually clearly starting to see the parallels between those who are under this same tent, if that's the
Mm.
best way I could put it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, I honestly feel like the ANC is a huge pandemic, but there's hope. There is hope. I think there's a light at the end of the
There are
tunnel.
vaccines and there's medication, buddy. Don't worry.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yoko,
and it's
take a
called
booster
voting.
for the ANC, okay?
It's called voting, guys.
It's definitely called voting. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And remember, you at home, your freedom is worth fighting for.